Hello everybody, it's Sir Ustad, Ortega Hobson here again from the mid-roam with my latest video. So today I will be showing you how to make inexpensive, durable, and lightweight shields. Mine are made out of, I used 2 pieces of 1/4-inch plywood to make mine, and they seem to hold up pretty good. Most of the ones I've used myself usually last 2 or 3 years, sometimes longer depending on how long I use them. I mean, I'm a pretty active guy. I probably hit 25 almost 30 events a year still. I fight in a lot of tournaments and lots of melee, and I use my shield tournaments all the time and melee about 1/3 of the time, so I only usually use them on field battles, but still that's quite a lot of fighting to last 3-4 years. I call that pretty good. Mind you, it's not aluminum, so it's not going to last forever, but they do last pretty good amount of time if you take care of them. So I've got some of the components here. I'm gonna show you. It's pretty simple stuff. I'm gonna switch my view, maybe. Or maybe not. So I have some planks I've had cut. I usually get a full sheet of 1/4-inch BC pine, which is their traditional, normal, everyday average plywood sheet. Don't get the laminate, don't get the hardwood laminate, any of that stuff. It doesn't have the internal structure to hold up to what we use it for. This is just the regular BC pine, and Lowe's will cut it for you. You get 2 to 3 cuts out of it. I usually have them cut it in quarters, so these are 2 foot by 4 foot sheets, and I'll cut them down again when I'm ready to glue them. But typical BC pine has two sides to it. What we call a good side. This one's a little odd because I've got a really nice laminate side here and a pretty good side here. The way you can usually tell what's not the good side is when you have knots in it like this, or a lot of filler in it. A lot of times you'll see filler pieces like that there, which is hard to see, which is unusual for it to be on the opposite side of this one, but it's still a pretty good piece. Most of the sheets I use, or I cut them down from 2 by 4, so it usually comes out 2 by 34 is what the average of my shields end up being. So you want to take both of the bad sides here, and you're going to be gluing those two together is the 2 bad sides. So this one is on the wrong side, so I got a good side and a bad side, but it's not going to matter. Anyway, I ramble, sorry. So 1/4-inch BC pine. You're going to need glue, of course. I use Type Bond. This is the premium. They have 3 kinds. They have the regular, the premium, and the ultimate. So the premium Type Bond, what I like about this stuff binds really well. It gets a quick hold in a couple minutes, so that it's not shifting around a whole lot. Also, the premium is water resistant, and the ultimate is waterproof. It says waterproof, so if you leave your shield out in the rain a time or 2, it's not going to explode on you. I usually use a circular saw and a jigsaw You can get away with just a jigsaw, but you're going to need something to cut out the cutouts for the shield. 2 average ratchet straps and some various C-clamps. I usually use the 3-inch regular 3-inch C-clamps. I got 3 of those, and I've got, because of the unusual size of my shield, I've got a Turkish wing heater. I use the 5-inch deep set C-clamp as well. So also some 1/2-inch sisal rope, and either armor grade leather, which I cut into 3-inch strips and use that for edging, or a lot of people use rawhide. I'm not a big fan of it. I haven't really used it a whole lot, so I just use regular armor leather on mine. I also highly recommend getting some 3M90. It's some of their strongest spray glue they have out here. It's really instrumental to me for gluing my edging. The leather, not the rope. And also, if you're going to canvas cover your shield, gluing the canvas on. Okay, before we actually get started here, I have to apologize to some of you for last week in my shop. Evidently my mother is watching my video and called me up to yell at me about how dirty my shop was. So sorry, Mom. Yes, I'm a 52-year-old man who still gets yelled at by his mother for not cleaning his room. So yay me. So a couple things. Yes, for you those that did not know, I am 52 years old. And 2, yes, I am very afraid of my mother. At 70, she's 74, 75 years old. She's still the scariest person I know. So I spent some time cleaning up. And so hopefully I won't hear from that anymore. But anyway, these shields hold up really well, in my opinion. I have been using this particular type of shield for about 20 years. I stopped using aluminum shields back when I was still a squire. The vibration, and especially in the odd shape of the shield that I'm using, really bothered my shoulder and elbow, so I stopped using the wood shields. Have a tendency to absorb a little bit better on the vibration, and to me the fluctuation in the shield is a lot more subtle, and it has a lot more flex to it as far as how it absorbs, not flex as in distorting so it actually twists your shoulder out places, or what happened to me. So I enjoy the wood shields, and get things situated here and get started. Okay, so I've taken my quartered piece of plywood and I've drawn the shield pattern on it I want to make. Also, if you notice, I have these nice little cutouts in here. This is where I'm going to cut the material out so I can actually save some of the weight on it. Also, I'm not going to do these corners. I'm going to round these guys off like this. It just kind of helps to take some of the stress off of the sharp cut, so whenever you get into a corner like that and you make your cut like that, you tend to undercut, overcut, whatever, and when you go to shape this, to curve this, it'll have a tendency to want to split at that hard corner. So I tend to round them off whenever I'm cutting them out. I have a 3-inch edge and a 3-inch crossbar. I've tried a couple different things, starting with 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inch, and 3-inch just has a tendency to hold up a lot better, especially from the abuse that we get on our shields. Usually come from the front corner and the back corner, the back top and front top corner. So that's where it tends to help out the most. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my my jigsaw, and on this piece only, I'm going to cut out the profile, and I'm going to cut out these cutouts here, just on the inside skeleton part. So this is the one we call the skeleton piece, and the other one is just your plain flat board. There is no, other than your length, there is no other cutting to that until you get it glued and it sets. So I'm going to drill. Oops, sorry. So I've got a. You don't have to use a paddle bit. It's just get whatever size you need to get inside of the get your jigsaw inside of there. And get you a starter hole. Or the other reason I don't use a paddle bit very often is because it has a tendency to break through. Which is also the reason why this is your bad side. Okay? The sides that are gluing to each other are the bad sides. The reason for that is when you have a piece like this that has a lot of knots and blank spaces in it, the glue will fill all that in. So if you put bad side to bad side, and when you glue it, the glue will help take up those spaces and it won't leave a void. Anywhere there's a void in glue on these guys is where it's going to have a tendency to want to break, splinter, or break through. Okay, so I'll cut this out. Be right back.
On.
Okay, before or after, it doesn't really matter. You get your cutouts cut, and you want to go ahead and cut your shield profile. Regular heater is easy because all you have to do is cut your curve. I usually either use an old shield that I've already done before, or I find my apex and put a pin in it and a string, and I draw my curve on both sides. You'll usually use 2 apexes and get that curve and get that nice tapered shield shape. But mine's like I said, mine's a little weird because it's a winged Turkish horseman shield. So you want to cut your contour out. My wing is here and the base is there. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to come back over after it's glued and trim it all down again. So I usually cut on the outside of the lines. And take your time, because it's going to leave a rough edge on it. Depending on what kind of blade you have. This one's a faster medium cut blade. You can get a fine cut. They just cut slower, or they don't cut as much material, so it takes a little bit longer to make the cut. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to come back and cut it again. So get in there, you're right. All right, you get your other piece and you meet them up.
Pausing.
All right, so you made it up just so you can mark where your edge is, so you can take away some of the extra material. You don't, it doesn't matter if the extra material is on there, but there's no sense in having to do it if you don't have to. So comes the fun part. So take your blank, So good side out, since both of these sides are pretty good. But this is my good side, that's going to go out. This is my rough side, that's going to go in. I use 2 regular ratchet straps, ordinary plain ratchet straps. Just leave it there. Leave it there. And I'm just going to place them. I'm just going to place it there so it's ready to go when I'm done with the board. And now comes the fun part. All right. So very important part. Flip your piece over, or else you'll be gluing it on the wrong side. So this is, for all practical purposes, the bad side. So we're putting bad side to bad side. And this one doesn't matter. They're both about pretty good, pretty decent. Take your Mondo gallon of glue, type on, piece of cardboard. This is where you do not want to do this inside your shop
or the house,
or your house, unless you put down some,
or the house,
unless you put down some paper, or you do it out, you have a concrete floor or something like that that you can do it on. I would not recommend doing this on anything other than that, because this is the messy part, because you need to be extremely generous with the glue. When I say extremely generous, I buy a gallon about every other month. because I make a lot of shields for other people. So, most of the wood guys are going to like scream when they see me do this. So, very generous with the glue, because you're going to spread all this out and it's going to be very gloopy. Anybody who's seen my driveway has seen the residual glue tracks. So here's a lot of glue. So take your cardboard. Already messed up. You're gonna spread it out. Make sure you cover the entire surface all the way to the edge. When you get to the edge, you just kind of feather it out. So make sure it covers it. The bulk being in the middle means when you put pressure on it, it's going to squeeze out to the sides. So it's okay that the middle is thicker than the edges, because this is going to squirt like a cheese sandwich. Don't laugh at me. Like I said, this gets very messy, and I've
Don't do it in the house, people. She says from experience.
I've gotten pretty good to where I'm not making a tremendous mess. I don't know of any way to do it and not make a mess and still get enough glue on here to where you're going to squirt out the sides, because you do need it to ooze out. Which also makes this really difficult to do in winter time because it needs to be warm. We got lucky enough to have good weather this weekend, so you can literally see how deep in the glue this is. If you have hair like me, keep garter your hair. All the way to the edge. You have to flow it over a little bit just to get there. That's fine. It's not going to matter. A lot of that edge is going away when you go back through and cut it out with a jigsaw after it has set. So I'm going to take this, and after I ratchet strap it, I'm going to let this sit for an entire day, or close enough to an entire day, where I get impatient and just have to do it.
Why don't you set it longer?
You can.
I'm just curious.
It generally just takes about it's 12-14 hours to set. It'll continue drying whether you release the pressure or not, but after 24 hours, all of the outside binding part of the skeleton are dry enough to where it's not going to slide. So this stuff is pretty fast acting, so once it bonds to the wood, it won't slide anymore, so it'll keep its shape that way. That's the good part about this design of shield. You take your skeleton and flop it onto your, not your ratchet strap, flop it onto your blank. Center it up a little bit. It's going to move. You're going to have different overlaps. Once this starts to bend. So C-clamps. I usually start on the front edge. And you can literally see the thing floating on the glue. So it'll move around for a while. It'll take, after about 5-6 minutes, it won't move. It'll start to bond. So I'm going to line up the edge. I'm going to snug it this side down. Ratchet strap. And I'm going to line it up. So you want to get it two inches, 2-3 inches away from the top edge of it, so you can get a nice consistent bend. On longer shields, this one's something around the base length of it's like 30, 32. I think the whole thing is 36, 34. It's 34. This is the shorter one. It's my tournament shield. So something longer. I know some of you guys make those nice tower shields for melee. Those guys, you might want to use 3 ratchet straps on. The good thing about using ratchet straps, a lot of people are just they love their presses and everything, but with a press you can't vary the curve from top to bottom. Like I can make, and I usually do, the top is has a little bit more curve than the bottom does on these. So that's the one benefit of using ratchet straps instead of a press. Press is consistent as far as it will always go back to the form. So you can't vary your form unless you make some kind of risers, adjustable risers on the form itself. This way I can do it just by tightening one ratchet strap more than the other. Alright, so at this end up here, I am just barely tightening these just so they touch. I can still move this here around. This is pretty snug down here. What this going to do is when I go to curve it, the material will move this way and it will kind of even up the sides, so the edges will meet a little bit better. It'll also, I usually will get the bend started, and then I'll clamp them down, and then I'll keep ratcheting and strap it together. That's going to force the top piece into the back piece, and that way it's going to take away any gaps in there, any air space that's in there. So I got a little deeper ratchet or C-clamp for my wing, so because I want to make sure that gets slugged in there too. So I want to make sure that there's no gaps in that upper part, because that's another good way to break a wing off. All right. So here's the fun part. No, it doesn't matter if your straps are twisted or not, but part of my OCD has a tendency to kick in. Alright, snug that one. Now, if you notice, I do have these interchanged, so this one is pulling this way and this one is pulling that way. It helps to balance out the stress on the bend. It's not really, for this small of a piece, it's not really going to hurt it any, but I've gotten into that habit just so I can make sure that it doesn't twist on me. A bigger piece, you may have to watch out for it, and this piece, you won't. It's not big enough to really concern yourself with it. But like I said, kind of OCD on some stuff. Alright. Alright, so ratchet straps are on. Get them started, ready to go. Here's the easy part. So to get your bend started, I'm sitting there on C-clamps. I'm just going to step in the middle of it. Lift up a little bit. And a little bit. Get your curve started. Same thing down here. Lift up a little bit. Get your curve started. So I got my curve beginning. Now I need to lock these guys here down tight and snug. Like so. Alright. Now since these are all snug down, as it bends, it's going to shove the middle of the top piece into the back of the bottom piece. And be careful you start doing one too much and not the other one, and this one will loosen up. So you want to keep the pressure on them. So if you, well, it's hard to see here, but the top part has more bend than the back part, than the bottom. So the top has more bend than the bottom does. So the bottom flares a little bit more out. It makes for a little bit more protection on your legs. It's also pretty consistent with some of the horse shields I've seen where the top part has got more curve to it to protect the bladder, where the bottom part is a little bit more flared to protect the leg and the horse. Just my observation. Anyway, so just make sure everything's snug. Pick cardboard and the other messy part so you can keep this part, the inside, from being too sloppy. I usually screed out some of the extra glue so there's not a huge...
I would imagine that would cut down on the weight too.
It does. It helps keep it a little nicer and cleaner, but it also, because you've taken that cutout out to reduce the weight down, so you don't need to add something in there to bring the weight back. It's going to settle, but I usually take out a good portion of it, and then I'll smooth it out just so it looks better and consistent. I'm going to clean up all the spillover, and I'll also screed the edge of the top and the bottom. That just makes sure that the glue is all the way into that seam right there. And a lot of this excess glue, I'll just kind of run through and make sure that all the edge gets it, because sometimes you'll get a little gap right in the middle here, so I just want to make sure it all gets it. And I clean up my edges. Run away. So like I said, I will let this sit till tomorrow, and we'll come back and we'll do the trim, the trim cutout, cutting off the excess here and at the bottom, and we'll work on edging. And I'll give you some ideas on how to finish up your shield, whether you want to paint it,
have your wife paint it,
whether you want to paint it or cover it.